everybody, welcome back to our 6th episode of Obscuricast. I have, as always, my co-host Dan O'Neill with me. How you doing this evening, sir? How's things?
Doing good. Doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right. So I know that last episode we touched a lot on paranormal stuff. Today we have an interesting topic that I think begs a couple of questions, and we're going to get into it pretty deeply. We both did a little bit of side research before we started the episode, just sort of brush on what we sort of know about our topic of tonight. And tonight we're getting into pyramids, Dano.
Yes, we are.
And we're also going to get into a little bit of Egyptian culture as well. I know we wanted to sort of throw that in there because Egypt is probably, if not one of, if not the best example as far as pyramids are concerned. They're probably the most notable pyramids, other than probably the Mayan and Incan ruins. There's also one that's probably the most prominent. And I think the coolest thing about the misconception about pyramids is the ones in Egypt aren't even the biggest ones in the world. I think that's the coolest thing that a lot of people probably don't know.
Yeah.
And they're scattered, on all four corners of the earth. I think that's the other really cool thing, is they're not centric. I think a lot of people would believe or have the notion that Egypt is the only place with pyramids. It's not the case. It's actually the farthest extreme from the case. They're everywhere. I don't have an exact number, but I think the research that you and I did, I think they said somewhere in the couple of thousands.
Like tens of thousands.
Yeah, like a couple 100,000 or so. And they're, like I said, they're scattered all over the place. And there's also been a lot of misconception and a lot of theorists that talk about the fact that they're not just there by happenstance. They're not just there because they're there. I think that notion is really interesting. As always, on Obscuricast, we try to play both sides of the coin and look at things from a different perspective. So I know we've talked on some of the episodes too about the Sumerian culture and that kind of stuff, and what extraterrestrials have in relation with gods and that type of thing. So a lot of people attribute the pyramids as to be a way to communicate with things that are otherworldly. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's found in fact? Do you think both sides could be right? Do you think it's something that's one-sided? What do you think?
I think that the pyramids, at least the pyramids in Egypt, the Great Pyramids, I think they were definitely not burial chamber. Like, I don't think they were used for burials for the kings or anything like that, because they're to this day there's never been an actual burial found. There's been no body found in the pyramid. So why mainstream archaeology still is standing on that hill, I have no clue. But I think that they were definitely used as a machine, if you will. I mean, just within the last few years, they got these LiDAR scans showing that there's these, 40-meter columns underneath the pyramids with supposedly the Great Labyrinth underneath, and there's supposedly a 40-foot long object. I don't know, but I know that it was not used for burial purposes. I can tell you that. There's way too much evidence showing that it was, basically built over water, over an aquifer, and water's got a lot of uses. It was almost like a nuclear cooling plant. That's what I think. And here's everything from it was used as a communication through space and time and all sorts of stuff. I don't know, but I definitely know that it was a device. Let's put it that way. That is my own feeling.
That's essentially your contention towards the idea of what they were used for.
Yeah. What's yours? Like, what do you? I mean,
let's get it straight here.
Yeah,
let's get it straight here. When we're talking about a machine, I think your guys' heads might go to something that's very, what's the right word to use? Progressive, very intricate, and it is mechanical. Correct. It is that, but at the same time, we're not talking about your car. We're not talking about a conveyor belt. We're talking about something that has a use for something other than what it's been like. That's the whole thing about the pyramids. There's so many theories about what they were used for, and nobody can pin it down to a single thing. It's a lot of arguing. It's a lot of going back and forth. It's a lot of extrapolating ideas and what they might have been used for, and how they line up and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get into all that. But I think it's interesting that there's not a lot of people, or there's groups of people that can't agree and have evidence for that agreement for it to be just one thing. You can't pinpoint it, I guess, is my point.
And you've also got,
no pun intended, by the way.
Right. You also, I think it's crazy. You got the Egyptian government trying to hide things.
Well, that was the same thing as that. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I actually saw the thing. We watched a documentary, or he rather sent me a documentary that was pretty interesting. It was about 45 minutes or so ish, something like that.
Yeah, all just under 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So not only is it the Egyptian government, it's the Bosnian government, it's the Chinese government.
Yep.
You have all of these, like, for example, what I think is interesting is in the documentary he sent me and I watched, it was interesting to know that a actual fact of the ones in China, for example, the Chinese government actually, quote unquote, take it or leave it, planted artificially planted trees on these so-called pyramids to cover it up. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they have pictures from like the 50s and 60s, 70s of these pyramids, and then the Chinese government just said, yeah, nobody's allowed to visit these spots anymore, and they planted, thousands of trees on these, in quotations, hills,
right?
Because they don't call them pyramids anymore. When clearly they're definitely a pyramid. Why else would you say nobody can go there and plant a bunch of trees? It's
right.
Just, it makes no sense.
It's it's asinine to say that nobody can go up there, but then there's people up there planting artificial trees. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your scapegoat, sure, have at it. No, but to get back to your question, what do I feel about them? I think stuff like this is unexplainable, and we should leave it unexplained until the purpose of them is revealed to us. I'm a big believer in not messing with shit until you have to mess with it. The fact that there's all these different theories and evidence of theories of stuff that it could be used for, a lot of it is otherworldly. Like we said, it's communicating with space, communicating with extraterrestrials. It's their religious aspirations and religious covets as far as these pyramids are concerned, what they were used for as far as religious purposes. I guess my stance is, if I had to boil it down to a sentence or two, is you are playing with things that are not only out of your control but out of your understanding with this type of shit. It's the same thing that we went to with the extraterrestrial stuff and the Sumerian stuff. It's the same thing we went to with paranormal things. And my general stance with the stuff that I don't know about, I tend to not dig too far into it to where I'm going to be like, I don't want to find some shit out that not necessarily is going to scare me, but I think a lot of us, especially people that are sort of renowned in what they believe, no matter what it is, whether it's religious, whether it's factual, it's logistical, analytical, whatever, people are very hard pressed to change their opinions because they're so well ingrained and it's comfortable. I'm not one of those people. I never really have been. I've grown up a lot in probably my latter teens into my 30s now. Where I just sort of take shit as it comes, dude. I don't think we should mess with stuff that we don't know about. I think we should leave it alone, and if and when it's to be revealed to us, it'll make sense. That's sort of where I am with all sorts of stuff, not just necessarily this, but since we're talking about this, it makes, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I guess kind of to an extent. Like, do you think that it was burial, or do you think here? I mean, here's another interesting, okay, um, bit of information as far as regarding the Egyptian pyramids. Supposedly way older than what mainstream archaeology has said. And this actually, there is no mention by the Egyptians themselves. Like there's no blueprint. They've never found a
Yeah,
blueprint
that's
of
another
how these
thing.
were made.
That's another thing is that like
So,
you have no sample source of where this came from. The, it,
another theory is these pharaohs came upon these, found them because if I mean you think about it, like the Sphinx, just its head was visible when it was first started to be dug up. I mean, it was buried in sand. These are really, really old, but supposedly these pharaohs, they found these pyramids and happened to slap their name on them. Like, hey, I found it. Doesn't necessarily mean I built it. I found it, which is interesting.
yeah.
An interesting theory.
So they
Because
just
what
sort of walked
if you look
across
at
it. Man was
their
just walking across the desert eating an apple, and then oh shit.
right, um, because I've never gone there, but my parents went there in the 90s, and my dad said it's very interesting because you go into the a bunch of the different temples, and there's just it's artwork everywhere and hieroglyphs everywhere, and you go into the pyramids, and it's just it's not. It doesn't look like a temple. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. Um, again, that like the Egyptian government trying to stop people from digging the potential labyrinth, the great labyrinth of Egypt that was written, I believe Plato wrote about the labyrinth and a couple other um, philosophers that had traveled to Egypt and said, how grand this labyrinth was, and they haven't been able to find it, but then they did LiDAR scans and it literally shows a labyrinth. It's incredible. But back to the pyramids itself, it's just interesting because if you look at the Sphinx, the wear and tear from the rain and water damage, Egypt hasn't had rainfall in how long? Like real actual rainfall in a long, long time. So you gotta, you know, put the math isn't mathing for what the mainstream educational, and I think, they don't want to rewrite history. They don't want to admit there's too many people, there's too many archaeologists who have jobs at, Harvard and Cambridge and teaching, students and people all over the world that they don't want their reputation to be tarnished. I don't understand why we can't just say, hey, you know what? We were wrong. We got new information, and this is it now. I don't understand why it's egos. I know what it is, but
Well, it's egos,
I
it's
know what it is. I just
monetary,
don't
it's
understand it.
egos, monetary value. People have gotten awards for it. People have literally, I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, let's break it down to what it is. People have staked their reputation, careers, life.
Oh yeah.
So it's a lot to give up if you really think
Hmm.
about it. In the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things, it might not be, but for our purpose here, money, fame,
Hmm.
pride, all that kind of stuff is pretty important. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
Now, I'm not
Yeah.
making a case for
Absolutely.
them covering it up. What I am saying is that we're
No, but
humans and
it
we're
makes
fallible.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're fallible.
Hmm.
We make mistakes, but
Yeah.
we're also very prideful beings, and we don't like to admit that we're wrong sometimes. That's the problem.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, but very interesting. Like how the pyramids align with the stars exactly to star constellations. And not only do those pyramids, but a lot of the pyramids in Mesoamerica and Mesopotamia and stuff, like what is that?
I think the other really cool thing is similarities between some of these pyramids.
Yeah, they're
How,
like on completely different continents that these civilizations supposedly never had contact with each other.
correct.
And they're all when they carbon date these things, they're all around the same time period, right?
Well, I remember seeing one, at least in the documentary you sent me. There's artificial cement
Oh
that
yeah,
they've
that
been
would
able
date
to
back like
extrapolate
12,000
or
years.
extract
Hmm.
rather from the ones in Bosnia. Because
Yeah.
as far back as at least they can quote it, Bosnian pyramids are the oldest on Earth. That's at least what I got
Well, no,
from it.
no, they're denying that the Bosnia pyramids are pyramids. They're
Well, I'm
saying that they're
saying,
just
but what I'm
hills. They're
saying
not
is
actual pyramids.
if they are found to be, they are quote unquote the
Oh
oldest
yeah,
ones in existence.
they would be the oldest. Yeah, it goes back to like Göbekli Tepe, that point on. Which, by the way, don't know if you saw, but in the last couple days, they actually found a statue in a one of the compartments there. So they've never found a actual like human being statue there. So that's like a big, big, big discovery. Um, big discovery. So, but
What
yeah,
it?
I mean that. But the if Bosnia would be the oldest.
Yeah, I think they said it was like 12,500 years or something like that. I think
Yeah,
that's what they said.
something like that. And that's just pyramids on the surface. There's pyramids underwater in India and you know, all over the world. Even pyramids that they supposedly have found a bunch of pyramids right in the Bermuda Triangle on the ocean floor. Um,
That makes a lot of sense.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. So I mean, you got pyramids above ground, buried underground that we got to dig up, and then you got pyramids, underwater when the ocean levels were a lot lower. Lord knows how old those are.
Right. I think an also really interesting point with the pyramids is um the finite exact location of where they're pointing to. Not only where they're pointing to, but the way they're set
The
up. So
layout.
like, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Um and from what I understand, it's like to a millimeter.
Oh, it's like impeccable. It's almost perfect. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
this is the other thing, really interesting thing too, is that if you look at pyramids, they're kind of like pyramids are more or less shaped like the head of an arrow, right? More or less, they're
Hmm.
pointing to something finite. It's not like our finger pointing. It's like it goes to a point. You know what I mean? Like it's a very
Yeah.
minimal point of apex at the
Yeah.
top of it. So like for example, if we're talking about the fact that no burial chamber, it's a burial chamber. Why are we building it 20 feet in the sky or, 3,000 feet in the sky or whatever it is? What's the
Yeah.
point? If it's a burial
Yeah.
chamber, why are you building it 30, 40, 50 stories into the air? There's no point to that. So, what is it pointing
Yeah.
to and why and why is it pointing where it's pointing? I think that's an interesting subject too, because like I said, the mathematics. You want to talk about mathing?
Hmm.
I mean, it's kind of insane. It's almost like it's like that too good to be true type of thing. Like there's a reason, you know. It's not like I
Yeah.
said. It's not just by happenstance. It's not just because it just happened to be there. Somebody put it there, whether it was us
Right.
or something else. Because
Yeah.
it's not just sitting in an arbitrary place. It's pointing to certain
No, there's
things. There's dimensions that make sense. Like I said, the math is mathing. It you have to look at it logically.
yeah, and it's like they were built for a purpose. It wasn't you wouldn't go through all that effort and all that, manpower and, you know, a whole civilization building these megalithic structures for just a ceremonial decoration.
Right.
I don't believe that.
Well,
There's got to be more
that
to it than that.
that brings the other question to play: is how the hell do you move a 600-ton rock?
They don't know.
You'd have trouble doing that today.
They can't do it. Um, the head curator for the head guy, the head Egyptologist, he was on Rogan's show a couple months ago, I think back in May, and he was so just arrogant, pompous, shut down. He didn't even know, pretended not to know about some of these theories and some of the like facts. Like he said he had no clue that they found these 40-meter pillars with the lidar, and he tried to like dismissing the whole thing. Um, and he works with the Egyptian government, so that's not a surprise. But Dr. Zakar, I'll find his name in a second, but um, you know, he said that they were able to reconstruct, and they've done it. And Rogan was like, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, well, did you video it? Like, where's the evidence? And he's like, oh, no, but we did it. We took pictures. And Joe's like, huh, okay. They've never been able to do it, even with the technology we have today. I forget the amount of time they said in that documentary. You would have to cut the stones. It would have to be like a 4 minute. I forget the exact number, but it'd have to be a ridiculously fast um, process that just you couldn't do it. Not with what like there's like over 1 million blocks in just the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah, they
That
said something
you
like it
know
was either 1 million or something to that effect. It was a
yeah
couple million.
uh, yeah, and like it's like you do the math, and it would supposedly take like 600 years to do it, and they supposedly did it in 20.
Yeah, and
Like,
it also the weight of it was also really interesting. They said it was something like 600 million tons
oh
or
yeah,
something like that of rock.
oh yeah,
Oh.
absolutely insane, wild.
And the fact that they're still
So
standing in such a like, sandstorms and stuff like that are no joke. They kick up a lot of wind, they kick up a lot of sand, they
oh yeah,
can make some hellfire, like really, like they can destroy some shit. Not
oh yeah,
like if you came there after sand, you would be like it's not even been touched. Nothing's moved.
yeah.
It's
I mean
it's so
the
perfect that
outside,
like even the weather can't fuck with it. Like that's crazy.
yeah. I mean,
Like think how long
they've gone
if they're
there.
predated Christ, how long those things have been in the exact same spot and have probably moved like a centimeter.
Something crazy,
Like
crazy.
it's actually
And
wild to think that those things. I think what they said was it predates Christ by like 2,500 years.
mm-hmm.
And
That's what that's what mainstream will tell you, and then they think, there's a lot of evidence proving that they're way older than that. Way older than that. Um, and even what's underneath them is way older. The Sphinx, they think that there was a whole different head on that, and that the Egyptians found it, and you know, it's another one. So there's actually two Sphinxes. There's the big one, and then there's the small one. Everybody, obviously knows the bigger one, but there's another smaller one, and you can like see the damage from water, from rain, and I might get the date wrong. I think they haven't had actual like rainstorms or whatever in like 7,000 years or something like that.
yeah, it's just
So,
like how I know we're pretty cognitive beings. Like we come up with a lot of stuff and we invent things and all that kind of stuff. But like for such a for such a you know for a time period that was so behind what we are now, Like we build a pyramid now, it's like, hey, I'm going to build a pyramid, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
to that scale and at that time period when there wasn't the technology that we have today, that begs the question is where did they come from? You were talking about the blueprints. There's no blueprint ever been found. There's no direction from anything as far as how these things were constructed, how were they built, how were they thought about, how were all of that stuff. Not one shred of evidence has been found about how these things were done and why they were done.
So what's interesting, and this just shows you how the crazy thought process of mainstream archaeology and shit. So the Egyptians traced their lineage, their pharaohs, back 30,000 years. Okay? Like their history, they can go back to 30,000 years when the first pharaohs came. But mainstream archaeology only adopts, they say that they only recognize a couple thousand years of pharaohs. And they say that the other, you know, 20,000 or 25,000 years of pharaohs is just mythological made up. So they only accept the ones that fit their narrative. Now, how the hell can you do that?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
30,000 years,
It's quite a number.
and you're just going to dismiss it? You're
Yeah.
just going to dismiss it?
Yeah, it's
Because, like, if 30,000 years, like, could you imagine those pyramids are actually even half that old?
yeah,
And
it
what, and
would.
like they said, what if the pharaohs happened upon those and it was there from an even older civilization like an Atlantis or something like that that they just found and put their name on it?
Yeah, it's just like redistributing the wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Yeah.
the the thing I wanted to get into too also, and I think it all sort of wraps into the same thing, is that like where with the technology they had, it doesn't seem feasible. So where did it come from? And that's where we get into the conversation about the extraterrestrials and like them being, because the thing I thought that was really interesting about what I found out about why they are the way that they are and how pinpoint they are is
The
um
energy.
it was the energy, and then we'll get into that because I'm blanking on the guy's name that came up with the theory, but we'll get into that in a second. What I wanted to touch on before that was um the beacon mentality, or um like they're a way to sort of pinpoint and orient yourself to where you're at.
Yeah.
So sort of like think
You're
about,
talking about celestial?
yeah, so sort of think about the fact that like it's like a road map or like a map quest. You got Jesus, we're probably got listeners on here too young to remember MapQuest, but think about like a really really environmental way of thinking about GPS. That's what we're talking about. So they would be able to sort of pinpoint where they are on Earth based on what pyramid they're staring at and where it's pointing to. Um,
Almost like a wormhole on Earth.
Right, like sort of not necessarily a wormhole, but like just a point of destination, right? It's a way to
Yeah.
orient where you are depending on where you are on the planet. This planet in
Yeah.
particular. Um and you the other good point that I want to touch on that you just spoke about was I think his name was Joe, was it Joe Parr?
I'm not 100%
I
sure.
think it was Joe Parr, but like I'll look it up while we're sort of talking here, but the one that you touched on um was interesting. The notion that you touched on about them being sort of like the energy field type of thing. You want to go into that a little bit
Yeah.
while I look this guy up and make sure I'm talking about the right person?
Yeah. Yeah. So, with the shape of pyramids, when use certain like water flow. There's also quartz and magnetism that you can use. They're actually resonators, and it's interesting with the shape because you can actually use that shape, and they start um, getting like an electromagnetic field, and they can actually start moving on their own, and they can uh, almost do like a one like a
Like what they
they
described
can
it as, I'll help you out. They had sort of described it as like a
yeah.
weightlessness, like think about
Mm-hmm.
the way a plane flies or some kind of aviation. It was kind of like that. Go ahead, go on.
Yeah. Yeah, so like the one thing that they said was every time they did it, then they say like it started to go towards a uh star star system.
It was Orion's belt. It
It
was a
was Orion's belt.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
constellation. So it would sort of move and sort of gravitate, if you will, to that constellation or that arrangement of stars. Yes. Um,
How much? I mean, this guy was doing it on obviously way
well,
smaller
he was scale.
scale
Well, he was scale.
pyramids,
Exactly, he was scaling it
but
right. So it
like,
wasn't like he was doing this kind of stuff in a lab versus doing it. Obviously, you know what I mean. So
hmm
scale that to a 600 million ton piece of rock, essentially, right? Because it's made mostly of rock or
yeah,
stone in some form or
hmm
fashion. You would extrapolate
yeah,
the 4-foot pyramid in your house that's doing this to something that's weighs 600 million tons. So not only are you
yeah,
extrapolating the amount that it has to move, but what is moving it?
yeah. Think about that power.
Like that's
Which again, you go into, you know, quartz, crystal, the water flow. Um,
well, all of what you're talking about has applications of power. Water is still used today as a power source.
hmm
So is the wind.
right.
Just natural phenomenon that takes place all around us every day is used as power. It's used as a force.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but what I
there's
really
theories that those
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's actually I believe evidence of like radioactivity in the pyramids, like nuclear radioactive like uh readings. And I think that there might have been like they build them on the uh water reservoirs as a cooling agent, just like we do today for nuclear power.
Yeah. What I thought was really interesting about it, though, and this is we're making a left turn part of the conversation. Um,
Okay.
the whole hyperspace and string theory that it sort of points to. Um,
Oh yeah,
the
like
the this
almost like wormhole type
Yeah,
thing.
so the hyperspace thing and the string theory, from what I understand, of the little bit of research I've done on string theory, because I was a
Yeah.
communication major in college, people. So the math doesn't always math to your boy. Um, but basically, his contention was that, like I said, left turn pyramids are an active time machine to other dimensions.
Oh,
Take that with a big grain of salt if you want to. Um, but there's been, you can call it bullshit. You can call it like clout grabbing or clout chasing or whatever you want. There have been people that have said they've experienced hyperspace or going into another dimension. There's been documented accounts too with the pyramids, um, that all of them, well, maybe not all, maybe that's a gross generalization. I would say a lot of them are pointing to the exact same constellation in
and
different
it's
parts of the
Orion's belt.
world. Exactly. Different parts of the world, different side, different corners of the world. They're all over the place. I think they said they're on 5 continents out of 7. Is that right?
Uh, yeah, and there's also, um there is the theory that there are pyramids on Antarctica. and there's a lot of evidence on that one. So that's a whole nother.
Yeah, depending
Um,
on where you are in the world, they actually treat. I
yeah,
actually just looked this up. Depending on where you are in the world, there's actually six.
yeah.
There's a belief that there's six, but in the United States, we believe there's seven. That being the most common,
Mm-hmm.
so. Depending on if you want
Being
to get
five.
right,
Yeah.
if you want to get real, like technically speaking, it's seven if you live in the United States, and pretty much everywhere else it's six. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming they probably
So,
treat Europe and Asia as a continent. So,
yeah.
because yeah, I mean that would make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's interesting that they're all pointing towards the same point. Do we think that's really just by chance? Like, if you
What do
think
you
of,
think it is?
I, there's a like we said at the beginning, there's a reason and a objective here. There's an objective and a re and there's an objective and a reason to everything. You look at stuff with physics. There's an equal and opposite reaction and all that kind of stuff. And you put in good, you get out good. You put in bad, you get out bad. Right? Like everything has its counterpoint and where it's supposed to go and that kind of thing and where it's supposed to be, no matter what you're talking about. So, are we really going to chalk this up to coincidence? It just doesn't make logical sense. If you think about it logically,
Yeah.
there is a reason that these things are the way they are and do what they do and all that kind of stuff. It's not you can't detract from the fact that it means something. What it does mean, probably going to be talking like I said also when you asked me the question, what do I think about the pyramids and what they're for and that kind of stuff? I ain't fucking with it, dog. I'm just gonna be straight up and keep it a buck. I honestly, if it happens to happen while I'm alive, I'll know then.
I got you. I got you.
Whatever they're
So,
for, whatever they're supposed to do, whatever they're not supposed to do, it'll happen. Am I gonna be alive for it? I doubt it. Maybe. We'll
yeah.
see. I mean, fuck. I mean, 2012 was supposed to be the end of everything, right? That didn't happen.
Well, today was supposed to be the second rapture, and we're still here. So, if it happened,
But like that, you could talk about that same thing with
yeah,
Y2K, right?
yeah,
When all the computers were supposed to shut
right,
down and the world was supposed to end, and it was the fucking apocalypse. That didn't happen.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
That we
it's all up for interpret.
that we know of.
Right,
That we know of. It could have happened.
but it's
You don't know.
all up for interpretation and sort of what I don't know how you feel about that, but that's sort of my roundabout way of going
So
through the topic is that I don't need to know, bro. If it happens, it happens. I'm
here's
here for it.
here's my 2 cents on this. Here's what I think. There's one of two things. Okay, and maybe it could be a combination, but I think it comes down to two things. With those pyramids having the same structure, you know, same down to the centimeter, like you talked about, and they're also modeled after the same celestial, um, star systems and stuff like that on different continents, and these civilizations supposedly never met. One of two things: either these civilizations met and they were traveling and they knew each other well and they shared, different engineering techniques and different whatever. There's that one. Or or they had help from an advanced civilization. Now, advanced civilization doesn't have to be, something alien or extraterrestrial. But somebody taught all these civilizations around the same damn time how to do this. And it's really fascinating because You got pyramids in Mexico that almost take on the same shape in India and in China.
I mean, they're all over.
Um,
They're all over the place. That's the crazy. That's the
oh
crazy
yeah,
part too. Is it's
yeah,
not just a secular. It's not just one instance. They're all over the
no, there's
place, dude.
hundreds and thousands of them.
They're everywhere.
Yeah,
So you can't pigeonhole it to something that's just, oh, well, it just happened to happen. What about the 20,000 other ones I'm staring at, dude? Where's your answer for
or
that?
how, or how about now you've seen the lidar technology, right?
No, but what I will
Have you
say
seen
before
that?
I will say before you continue, just to make my point as far as
Yeah.
like what do they say? Like what's the saying is like, you know, once it's a coincidence, you know, I forget what the saying is, but you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying. Like one is a coincidence, one is like, okay, it might be something more, and then number three is just like a fucking anomaly. Like, are you
It's a
serious?
pattern.
Are you? You know
It's
what
a
I mean?
pattern.
Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's interesting to think about because it's not just one event. There's hard
No,
evidence
it's
all
not.
over the world about this stuff. They're everywhere.
Hmm.
So you can't dismiss the fact that they're here for a reason. What the reason is, we don't know. But continue. Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. So, have you seen like the lidar technology? Have you
No,
seen that?
I might have heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Okay. So, what it does is they have this technology now, where they can actually scan and do like ground penetrating radar and stuff like that, like
Okay,
ground,
so like shit they would use for like mining and stuff like that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, so there's ground penetrating radar, but then there's lidar, and what lidar does is it actually removes the vegetation. Um, and they have actually been able to map out entire cities in the Amazon that
Underneath
are
the
covered.
underneath the ground.
Yes, yeah, that well underneath the canopies and the trees that they just thought were just regular
Oh,
mountains.
got it. So like it's sort of like a way to cut through all the
Rem-
bullshit so you can see what's underneath. Got it. Okay.
Yes, they can find the roads, the buildings, more pyramids that they can't even fucking get to because number one, you got cannibalistic tribes still out there, and just that jungle is good luck.
Yeah, I was gonna say you wouldn't want to probably send your worst enemy into the Amazon on a unattended. Probably wouldn't be a great idea.
No, and I mean, we've talked about it on this episode before when we talk about cryptids. I mean, they're still finding new species of animal. Um, so Lord knows what's out there. Um, between the anaconda snakes and the gigantic spiders, just those big, those hot, warm climates, they just everything's bigger. It's like
Right.
Texas.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because I'll have to send you some information on the lidar because it's crazy what they can do with it. They're discovering so much from ancient history, and they use part of the lidar and ground penetrating radar to find those labyrinths under in Giza and Saqqara.
So since you know a little
So,
bit more about the lidar, technology than I do, what would you say is like their crown jewels? So like the pyramids, for example, they've been able to excavate and find a bunch of really cool shit. What is probably their crown jewel or what they've found with lidar that you would say would be something like that, like a like a revelation type experience where you find something that you didn't know was there? What would you say is probably like the best thing they found?
they have found in ancient mythological writings where they talked about these cities that everyone said didn't exist for, a couple hundred years. Now they actually found them.
Like there's actual physical evidence of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Like give me a second here and I'll look it
No,
up.
yeah, go
But
ahead. So I think that brings
yeah.
that, like, because we talk about everything above the surface, right? We sort of touched on the fact that everything below the surface is, I mean, I would venture a guess. I'd probably have to look up the statistic, but I would bet 75 to 85% of the entirety of the ocean has been unexplored because one, we don't know what's down there, and two, we don't have the technology to get to where we need to go past a certain point. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
So like not only are we scared to find out what's down there, we don't have the ability to go down there. Or at least, quote unquote the ability, right? Throw that however you want it,
Y-
but
Yeah, I mean, we don't have, I mean, we probably have the ability. Like, I would believe that our government and military probably has the ability to go down there. They're just black op programs that we don't know about. Um, because I mean, even like my dad said when he was in Vietnam, he was like, he did some black ops programs, and he said, um, whatever technology the public has, the those special programs, they have technology
it's
that's 50,
hundreds or
75
maybe
years ahead. Yeah,
I was
like
gonna say hundreds,
it's
thousands
so
of years
far
ahead. Yeah,
ahead. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's Lord only knows, but I mean, you
but it
don't know
brings
what
in
you
it
don't know.
right. But the reason I bring that up, the reason I bring up the ocean floor and stuff, is stuff about like Atlantis and stuff like that. Like, what if it's down there and we just, as much exploring as we do in space, I would probably venture a guess that we do little to none involving the ocean. Like, just because of
Well,
the weight of the ocean is just so more like I realize that as you go up, you lose oxygen. But at the same time, the really crazy thing about the ocean is as you go down farther, the weight increases.
the pressure, yeah, 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 it's. I mean, I've had my scuba diver's license since I was 10 years old, and you know, I always wanted to go like super far deep, over 100 feet deep and stuff. But what sucks is you don't have the color. Everything just gets dark and blue, and then you're using up more air, so you don't have as much time. And then also every 10 feet, once you get past like 30 feet, you got to start stopping every 10 feet and decompress, or your lungs literally will explode if you
Right.
go up too
And that's the
fast.
whole thing with
Get
like
the bends. Yeah,
decompression chambers and all that kind of stuff, why it's
yeah,
necessary. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah, so it's
it
it's
adds a
fun. It's
whole
a very fun thing, but
yeah, but it adds a whole new anomaly to explore a whole new anomaly to exploration.
Mhm.
Like as much as we deal with oxygen going up too high and there not being any oxygen, you're dealing with sort of a double whammy. You're dealing with both the pressure and that fact. And I mean, like it's certain things like you look at like space or water exploration. There's been countless times where somebody has gone down there and literally the thing is compressed like you're crushing an empty can of Coke.
Ocean Gate.
Yeah, like you go down too far and you're literally gonna get turned into a ball. Like it just it's really baffling. Like that I don't know I don't know too much about like space and stuff like that, but I know there is a certain point where that comes into play. But like maybe I don't know enough about it. Maybe I'm too green to it because I spend too much time worrying about what's above us versus below us. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, I wonder if we're ever going to have the capability or if ever it's going to be possible for us to, go into like those places that you're talking about that are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of feet deep to figure out what the actual fuck is actually down there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at a couple of things that I just sent you, like the lidar is at least showing you that there's something down there, but that doesn't, it does us some good knowing that there's something down there, but until we can actually somehow find a way to get down there and actually examine this stuff, at least get samples to do some type of carbon dating or something. I mean, or find some piece of pottery. Um, it's there's a reason why I think everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why we can't get there right now. Because like you said, maybe we're just not meant to know right now. And when we're meant to know that information, we'll find out.
Yeah, like,
You
is it
know,
going to be presented to us when it makes sense?
and guess what? If it is some higher power, either godlike or just extraterrestrial, what a great way to hide that from us.
You're talking about down below?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and there's clear evidence throughout, you know, actual written history, and then in the Bible and in the Kabbalah and in the Quran and all these different religions. What do they all talk about that's in common? What do they all fucking talk about? They all talk about a great flood all around the same time. It's very interesting. And now, the younger Dryas, they've come out and they've come out with studying watermarks and water lines and all that stuff, that there actually was a massive flood around 10,000 years ago. That isn't just biblical or whatever. That is actual like fact now from doing these studies. Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock, they've worked on that. And it's crazy. So there was a event that happened. Now, was it otherworldly, religious, or extraterrestrial, or was it just, an asteroid or a comet that hit and fucked our shit up?
Yeah.
There's
I
evidence for that too.
do you think do you think the real stuff we're after is actually underneath us?
Probably. There are,
Because
this is a,
you talked about you just mentioned something that was really interesting that sort of made my mind go off on a tangent. Um,
yeah, what's that?
the Great Flood. Like, do you think the Great Flood was just a massive cover up for stuff we're not supposed to see
Could be.
from said beings that taught us how to do everything? Like, maybe the real secrets are beneath us, and we just can't get to
Could
them
be.
yet.
Could be. I mean, that's, with them finding those pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle, supposedly they think that there is a pyramid that is still actually active with whatever they did, and that's why there's so many weird phenomena.
Anomalies and stuff that happens where
Yes,
people's like
yes,
instruments go out of whack and all that kind of crazy
yes,
shit.
yes, that there's actually a pyramid that's still active
Well,
that's down there.
electrical or some type of interference would definitely do that.
Uh-huh, 100%. So, are we supposed to find out? I don't know. I can tell you a statistic that'll make you be like, are you kidding me? Probably. You'll be amazed by this. Did you know that do you know what a USO is? You know what a UFO is, right?
Right, unidentified flying
Okay.
object. Yeah,
Yes. Do you know what a USO is?
is it a submersible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you know that there are more USO sightings than there are UFO sightings?
Well, that sort of piggybacks my point, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot more activity? Probably, I wouldn't say a lot more activity. I would say because we don't know. Like you said, we don't know what we don't know. But at the same point, like I would have to imagine that something that is not that we're not supposed to see is doing exactly what it's supposed to do because we haven't fucked with it yet.
Mm-hmm. We do like to fuck with things, don't we?
Like it's just doing what it was meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doing anything out of the ordinary. It hasn't been defaced. Let's not use defaced. Let's use like it hasn't been tampered with. It hasn't been pulled out of its original design and dug up and investigated and all this kind of stuff, right? It's in its natural environment doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah,
It's a wild theory. It's something to think about.
it is. It is. I mean, we're technology just advances and gets better, right? I mean, it's always getting better and always evolving. So who knows? One day we might be able to find out more stuff, but I think that day will happen when we're ready. I don't think that it's an accident when our technology jumps like it does. Like, I mean, think about this. It's like I feel like with AI, we were talking about AI off the air earlier. It felt like we woke up one day and bam, AI was just a part of our life now. Boom,
Yeah, like
just
it
there we
came out of
go.
nowhere. Yeah,
Like, where really? And you don't think the government and military had been using this for way longer than us?
it just happened to leak
That
out.
they just said, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, go ahead, everybody can use it." No, if you believe that, then I don't know what to tell you.
I have an interesting question for you to pose.
Okay,
Do you think we're pushing the envelope with our technology? And
elaborate on that.
what I mean is, are you thinking we're getting ahead of ourselves? Do you think what we're
Um,
supposed to find out we're pushing that further than it needs to go? Essentially, we're
it,
doing something that we're not. We're having all of this technology. We're having all of these advancements. Do you think it's too fast? Is my question.
I think that we do things and we do it just because we can do it and we don't ask, should we do this?
You don't think about the consequences or what it might.
No,
What,
we don't think about the consequences at all, and that's the problem.
I
It's
mean,
like
that's the thing
you're
too. Is I'll let you continue, but I like you look at movies. Hollywood's a very good segue sometimes into ideas that are sort of like out there, right? There's been plenty of movies, plenty of projects that have sort of again pushed the envelope
hmm
and like messing with something that's out of your control that you don't fully understand. How do you control it? You don't.
yeah, you can't
It becomes
because
out of your
again,
control. It becomes out of your human. The way your mind works doesn't math to what's going on
right?
because it's something that's not you're not able to understand. That's the whole point.
You don't know what you don't know.
But to further make my point, before I'm going to let you finish. Um, my point being is that you're not supposed to know that yet. That's why you don't understand.
hmm
It's not meant to be understood. That's the whole point. Is you're not ready for it.
Yeah,
But go ahead with what you're saying. I thought that was sort of an interesting way to sort of look at things. Is like the whole reason it doesn't make sense is because it doesn't make sense to you. That's the whole
hmm
point.
No, yeah, we don't we have no clue.
And you're not
Um,
supposed to. That's
yeah,
that's why when you ask me that question, it's like it is what it is, dog. I'll figure it out sooner or later. I'm sure there's something driving this. It's not just happening because it's happening. There's a reason for it.
yep,
I don't know the reason. That's okay. I have no problem with that. I'll figure it out at some point. We always do.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy I mean, think about how far we've come just in the last like 5 years, 10 years of these different
But
pseudoscience theories that a lot of it is now backed up because of what we've found,
do you think
because of
we're do you
technology.
think we're messing with a Pandora's box type scenario? Do you
Mm,
think that do you think the human race is toying with that right now?
no, I don't think I don't. I will tell you this. I think we were toying with Pandora's box when we started playing with nuclear energy. Well, when we were building the atomic bomb and blowing those things off all the time and getting into, the nuclear warhead race, I think the universe felt that and things went, what are these cavemen doing? Like, they're literally playing with a ticking time bomb.
They don't know the extent of what they're doing.
Yeah, they're gonna not only kill themselves, but they're gonna mess with the entire universe. Because it's crazy how as soon as we started fucking with that shit, how many UFO sightings, now UAPs, but how many sightings there were
Well, just how things
and have
changed
been. Yeah, and
from a
like
from a
nuclear
from a
power
very
plants.
atomic from a very atomic from a very atomic point of view. Life changed drastically when that first one went off.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
everything changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like little instances like that, like with the atomic bomb or the creation of AI, like those examples is what I'm talking about. It's not like the little stuff that we see, but like the big events, the cataclysmic type events that can literally shape what's happening within our environment.
Right. And honestly, what do we love to do when we get new technology? How do we fucking weaponize it? We're so gung ho on war, and it's like, if we ever did find the ancient technology for what they use for the pyramids or, other stuff, maybe maybe they use levitating the stones to build it. I don't know, but I
Like
mean,
telekinesis or some
we,
crazy shit like that.
yeah, like we would just weaponize it, and we're not ready yet because we're not a peaceful society. And I think that until we become a truly higher, like third eye chakra, like peaceful society, civilization, we're not supposed to know that. I think the nuclear thing was an accident, and whoever the powers that be was like, "Whoa, we gotta fucking monitor these people better because they're gonna end it all." And I mean, there's supposed in ancient, ancient India, um, there's scripture saying that there was a huge nuclear war, and that's why, North Africa is a desert, and most of, some of the Middle East is. There's actually remnants of, I don't know if you know this, but there is actual glass particles in Egypt and in some of these Middle Eastern countries. You can actually see glass particles. So that means there had to have been a huge explosion to heat that, to get glass. So maybe something did happen a long time ago that, you know, we just didn't learn our lesson.
Maybe it was one of those
Or someone
cataclysmic. Maybe it was one of those cataclysmic events
could have been.
that changed everything.
Could have been, but I kind of stand with you. I don't believe in coincidences. Um, and people love to poo-poo things and say, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist," or blah blah blah. And whatever, I'll wear that fucking badge with honor, and it's fine. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but there's also a lot of conspiracy facts. There's a hell of a lot more theories that are turning into facts now, and it's I can't even imagine what the next 5 years by like 2030 what we know. But again, the problem is now with AI. Good luck trying to figure out what's real and what's not.
Yeah, and I actually, the quote that I was alluding to earlier, I actually found it. It's by Ian Fleming. Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, three times is enemy action.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, the other really cool one that I found, it was actually in the same breath as that one, was a quote by Albert Einstein: "Is coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous."
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I fervently believe there's nothing that's by happenstance. There's nothing by chance. Everything has a rhyme, a reason, and a reason. There's a reason and a concrete reason for why it is here, why you're looking at it, why you know about it, everything. Shit doesn't just
yeah.
happen, dude. You can
No, and
you can
it's
call it
really
destiny. You can call it whatever you want. It's still the same idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact that so many different cultures, not just having the pyramids, right? But also in their beliefs and their religion and their whatever you want to call it, they all have a very similar quote unquote story. That, you look at the Anunnaki, that story is the same as Osiris in Egypt, and Northern Ireland has the same damn story. And then over in China, they have theirs. India has a very similar story. Or yeah, India and like Hindu and all that. It's just how? When do they stop becoming myth and becoming actual historical record?
Yeah, like it's one thing to call something a coincidence, but when you have documented proof that it's not, what are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally showing somebody a physical or environmental or some kind of result that is indisputable evidence that this is a thing and you can't turn away from it. What do? You cover it up.
Right. Well, like look at some of the temples over in India. These temples were built literally in the side of mountains, and they still to this day cannot find the rock that was left over from supposedly chiseling this shit. And it was supposedly done like I think in a day or a week or something like that. Something that it would take us, fuck, it would probably take at least a year to 2 years to do it, maybe longer. Like when we're done here, I'll send you some pictures of the stuff, but they literally cannot find the leftover rock.
Like, where did it come
Like,
from?
right,
It's artificial concrete. You don't think that's going to leave a trace somewhere? And it is what it is. It just doesn't make sense. Like I said, everything comes from something. It's not here by happenstance, and it's not just there. It came from somewhere.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's it's crazy.
But with the pyramids and stuff, you guys can draw your own conclusions. We just like to talk, and I think this has probably been one of our more in depth episodes as far as just getting into like what it could be, like theories and stuff like that. And we had talked off air about maybe doing an AI episode or possibly something like that next episode, because with me being a technologist and somebody that knows a lot about it, it would be an interesting conversation to feel out how technology plays a part into this as well, because it's not just stuff popping up for stuff popping up sake. They had to have had a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It had to have been some kind of machine or, God forbid, power. Something happened that was out of our control to make this a thing and make it real and make it something that it is, quite literally awe-inspiring. Like you've been to the footage of some of these things, and I guess to wrap up, like, did you feel anything? It was sort of like the conversation we had about me going to Israel with all of the religious sites that I saw. So, like, can you speak to that as far
Mm-hmm.
as like, did you feel anything different? Was there, from your personal experience, was there evidence of anything that we've talked about? Did you feel anything? Like, get into that a little bit.
Well, unfortunately, like the pyramids that I went to, I was too damn young, you know. I wasn't, I was like 10 years old, 9 years old. I did when I was in where was I? I was in Cozumel and saw some smaller pyramids there. And Dad and I actually we were able to go on them, and I didn't feel like any energy source there. But again, they were smaller. Those could have just been ritual, um, sacrificial ones. But I mean, it's still amazing to think that like these were built how long ago by supposed, tribe people, who didn't have a lot of
If they
technology. And
had
you look at the,
technology, it was very limited. Like by our standards
right,
today, it wasn't even close.
right, and I put two pictures in the message thing for you to look at for that Hindu temple in the mountain. You can look at. But it's just incredible to look at the intricacy, and I mean, I don't think there's things that we could replicate today. Um, but it's just amazing to think that however the hell they did it, first off, why did they do it? Um, but also, you just look at the beauty of it, and you got to think they must have really had a lot of faith or belief in whatever made them do that, whatever made them build that, whatever whether they were trying to replicate something or you know a lot of this stuff too. It's interesting because you can't even see I mean, you see the beauty of these temples and these pyramids and stuff and these buildings, but what's really crazy is a lot of the designs you miss because a lot of these you can't even see the intricacy of how the beautiful geometrical shapes are unless you're in the sky.
Right.
You got to have an aerial view like a fucking bird to even to see the whole thing, and you're like, "Holy shit, like that looks like a lotus flower or that looks like a fucking mandala." Or like for what purpose would you fucking do that other than if somebody from above you can fucking see?
And know what it's for and where it is and that kind of stuff with the
Yeah,
orientation shit.
right.
Um, that brings up another good point that I wanted to touch on. That I'm glad that you sort of jogged my memory was the fact that the pyramids are not straight; they're concaved.
Well, yeah, they're actually eight sides, not four.
Correct. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder if that
Yep.
I wonder if that lines up the 8 number because numbers do hold meaning like everything else. I wonder if that lines up to
Mhm.
something that they found because I haven't done enough research on it. But that would be a if like the number matches up with something about their technology or like
I
that kind
mean,
of
it
stuff,
could.
whether it has some kind of significance.
Well, what's interesting is like, which pyramid is it? It's one in Mesoamerica. Um, it is. Oh, which one is it? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Here we go. Chichen Itza,
Mm-hmm.
the pyramid there. It's got exactly 365 steps. Exact amount of days in a calendar year. And then also in the pyramids in Giza, they add up to the golden ratio, which, if you give me a second, I'll look up the golden ratio. Um, so the golden ratio 1.61803339.
You're looking up sort of what the
According to
context is of the golden ratio, like what it's for.
what do you say?
I said, are you looking up like the context of what it's for, like the golden ratio, like what it pertains to?
Yeah, so it says the golden ratio is not definitively proven to be intentionally used by ancient Egyptians, but it is often claimed to be present in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Specifically, the ratio of the Great Pyramid's slant height to half its base length is very close to the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, a relationship that some researchers find too precise to be a coincidence. However, other experts suggest that these proportions could be a natural result of construction or a misrepresentation of approximate measurements, especially since the golden ratio is an irrational number, and the pyramid's dimensions have inherent uncertainties.
So what's the? I'm
So,
gonna look up something real quick. I want to look up a definition real quick because I think I know the answer, and this is gonna spark our last point probably. What unit of
mhm. That golden,
what unit of measurement is it in? Does it say?
that is a, oh, but if you keep talking, I will try to find it.
So, so I looked up this because I wanted to look up the definition of what irrational was, like the actual Webster's definition.
Mm-hmm.
Not logical or reasonable. And then in mathematics, it states of a number, quantity, or expression not expressible as a ratio of two integers and having an infinite or non-reoccurring expansion, which expressed as a decimal. Examples of irrational numbers are the number pi and the square root of 2. So it brings me back to the conversation. What if our understanding is irrational?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We haven't been given the
It
juice yet.
says, right. Well, what's
We
interesting
haven't
here
been
too,
jacked
this
into
is
the
on,
matrix, if you know what I'm saying.
right. This is on ancientorigins.net. It says, what is the golden ratio in mathematics and the arts? Two quantities are in the golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger of the two quantities. When the golden mean is conceptualized in two dimensions, it is typically presented as a regular spiral that is defined by a series of squares and arcs, each forming golden rectangles. This symbolic potential arises because of the way the mean spiral shape resembles growth patterns observed in nature, and its proportions are reminiscent of those in human bodies. Thus, these simple spirals and rectangles, which serve to suggest the presence of a universal order underlying the world, were thereby dubbed golden or divine. And what's crazy is I'm going to put this in the chat too so you can see it. Look at the different uh, designs on these shells and flowers and stuff. And this is like what they're talking about. So it's got all different sorts of shapes in nature.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what they're talking about. And it's interesting because when you do go to, these ancient temples and stuff like that, you see a lot of these. Like, you know, I I'll go ahead and talk about like I've had psychedelic experience and I've done DMT, and the one thing with DMT is a lot of kaleidoscope. You see a lot of kaleidoscope symbols and stuff. And okay, so you asked me earlier, did anything resonate with me when I was, seeing these temples over in ancient, Mayan, Aztec and stuff like that, Mesoamerica. The one thing I will say is the symbols in like this. I saw the same symbols in my DMT experience that I saw at those temples. And it's interesting because DMT is, that's what they use in ritual ceremonies down in the, Amazon and stuff. And it was just really interesting to see that. That's something that stands out in both experiences.
Yeah.
Um, was those symbols, and I essentially saw like a ancient god or demon or something sticking its tongue out and like kaleidoscope. It was weird, but yeah. What do you think about this golden ratio?
Mathematics is
I don't think it's
mathematics is pretty finite from what I understand. So it's again, it's
yeah.
not an accident.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but as we're getting to an hour and a half, like we usually do, I think we'll just sort of circle back on sort of what we talked about and give our final thoughts on it. I mean, with with what we're playing with, like I said at sort of the first part, is that I think we can both agree that if and when we're supposed to find out about all this stuff, it'll be revealed to us. Take that how you want it, whether it's going to be through religion, whether it's going to be through whatever it is. It's eventually going to make itself known. We're going to experience it as a species, what we're supposed to experience, what we're not. Do we have the balls to push the envelope farther than it needs to be and get ourselves into a situation where we're literally irrational and have no idea what to do? It's kind of a scary thought, but it is that sort of Pandora's box thing that I was talking about earlier. You know, Legend of Pandora's Box is, I'm probably paraphrasing. Hopefully I get this right because I think I'm right. It was essentially a box given to Pandora by God, and she was told not to open it.
Yep.
She opened it, and that released all of the bad things and all of the malice and stuff like that into the world. And
It's kind of like Adam and Eve with
like
Eve
it's
eating
the
the
whole
apple.
it's the whole temptation, and I'm sure there's other stories within other religions and that kind of stuff that point to the exact same story, just like you were talking about before. So my point being, are all of these stories and mythological things about bad things happening, are they just factual information that we're being fed when the time is right?
That right now we think is myth.
Correct. All this shit actually did happen. And it's a warning sign to not get ahead of yourself. We're warning you. Don't do it.
Yeah. That'd be wild.
That's how I think about it, is that I thought about this a little bit while we were going on, because we talked about a lot of crazy shit, and I keep saying that I love these podcasts because I do, because once we get rolling, it's just a fucking roller coaster and it just becomes a really, really fucking good conversation.
Yeah.
But that's what I was sort of thinking throughout the entire podcast, is like, are we just being, don't open the box, dude. You're not ready for what's in there, bro. I'm telling you right now, don't do it.
Yeah. And there is, I'll have to find it sometime. We can do an episode on it at some point, but there's like a lot of evidence pointing towards Mars actually having been a huge, huge, huge nuclear explosion on Mars. And what if we are distant ancestors from Mars?
Yeah.
That destroyed their planet. Like
I said, are we an iteration of something that's come before? And it's just like, dude, I slapped your hand with the ruler. You did it again. Now we get to slap you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm talking about, dude, is that, like,
oh yeah,
I'm coming across all these conversations about otherworldly stuff and us being reincarnated and stuff like that. What if that's all pointing to the same thing? We're gonna give you another shot. Watch them fuck it up again. Like, you got to be up there they got to be up there just like face palming the fuck out of their heads.
Yeah, I mean, the Earth's 4.5, 4.8 billion years old. I mean, you know how many like different times mankind could have rose up and then killed themselves and then rose up again, and then just it's a repeating cycle over and over and over again.
That's wild.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think that's actually a decent place to stop. Like I said, everything has cause and effect. Nothing. I think we can both also agree everything's cause and effect, and everything happens for a reason. And what the reason is, maybe we're not supposed to know that reason until we're ready.
Yeah.
And it's not
we're not meant to know at all.
And it's not up to us to be. It's not us to dictate that finish line.
Right.
It's out of our hands. No matter what you believe, it's out of our hands. And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Just a thought.
Yeah. It's a good thought.
But
Good thought.
like I said, I think that's actually a pretty good place to go, Dano, after we do this is like the AI stuff and the technology, since it'll be a pretty big segue into like we sort of touched on both, but I think we did more of like the otherworldly stuff this episode. So maybe we focus on the technology and like, you know,
Yeah.
where that
Talk about like
go ahead.
ancient technology and then or what we're in right now.
Yeah, and sort of extract it to the fact of what we have now and where we how we came to the logical conclusion or analytical conclusion that this made sense based off of where we've been. I think that's actually a pretty
Yeah.
sick episode, so we might do that one for the next one. But
Sounds good.
as always, dude, the conversation took a turn. We took a couple left and right turns. So,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying these. As long as we have a good topic, I think you guys will enjoy them too. And like I said, we probably could have gone for another half hour, 45 minutes to an hour with what we were going on. But like I said, we want to keep it digestible for you guys. We want to keep it something that maybe you guys can, take on a trip with you and like listen while you're out on a hike or something like that. But I think we'd also probably agree that this is probably one of those podcasts, at least for you to get your money's worth out of. At least what we do, we're pretty much sitting in the same spot the whole time. We're not moving around. Our attention is sort of in the moment. So I think that sort of speaks to what we want the podcast to be for you guys. I mean, you can disagree if you want to, dude, but I think that something like this that really taps into and we go off on tangents and stuff like that, you're going to sort of forget where you're at.
Yeah.
So just make sure that if you guys are listening to it, because we get a big dopamine kick out of this. We try to do it as often as we can for you guys. I mean, we have lives, we have families, that kind of stuff. So we have to take care of what we have to take care of. But I hope you guys are enjoying it. We've had, we did a podcast with a couple buddies of ours, and this is doing as good or if not better because we're being consistent. So we're going to try to keep that up for you guys. But you have any more thoughts, Dano, before we wrap up?
It's just fun to put the tinfoil hat on and not give a fuck.
Yeah. I would genuinely agree with that. Just to sort of, I don't want to say poke the bear, but poke the bear, right? Take it from a different angle, from a different perspective. It's fun. It's interesting because you can get a lot of like useful talking points just by exploring the other side of something. I think that's really, really interesting. So,
yeah.
But at the same,
there's so much history out there.
there's just so much more
topics and
information.
just
Like I said, it's so
a lot
much
of
more that
stuff.
we don't know about, and whether we're supposed to know about it or not remains to be seen.
Yep.
So, but we'll wrap up for you guys. We'll have this up on Spotify as quick as we can. I'll probably edit it tonight and then have it up sometime tomorrow, whether it's in the morning or afternoon or possibly early evening. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I said, we'll have it up on Spotify. We're going to try to share it to some social media channels as well. We've already started sharing it on our Instagrams and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in checking it out, it'll be up there. And then I know that we're going to work on getting some X handles and some other stuff so we can sort of make clips and maybe even possibly just post it to Twitter and stuff like that. So without any further ado, we'll be back with another episode as quick as we can, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll call that a podcast, dude.
That was good. See you. Bye,
See ya.
everyone.